Imagine a world where one of the most beloved animals teeters on the edge of vanishing forever. Giant pandas, with their iconic black and white coats and gentle eyes, are instantly recognizable and tragically, incredibly rare. With only about 1,800 left in the wild, they are no longer just cute symbols of conservation, they are warnings. Warnings about what happens when nature is squeezed to its limits. But why have their numbers dwindled so dramatically? Why is this peaceful creature, once widespread across China, now confined to a few mountainous regions? As you begin to understand the challenges they face, you'll realize this isn't just a panda story, it's a human story too. The threat is silent, persistent, and growing by the decade. Every 10 seconds, a forest is altered or destroyed somewhere in the world, and the panda's home is no exception. The danger isn't only from poachers or predators, but from the creeping expansion of modern life. The clock is ticking, and the question remains, can we act in time? Giant pandas once roamed much of southern and eastern China, and even parts of Myanmar and Vietnam. But today, they are restricted to just 6 mountain ranges in central China. The reason? Habitat destruction. Centuries of deforestation for farmland, logging, and urban expansion have sliced their once vast territory into tiny, isolated patches. Without large continuous forests, pandas can't migrate, mate, or find sufficient bamboo to eat. And bamboo is all they eat, about 26 to 84 pounds of it daily. If one patch dies out or is cleared, the panda's survival in that area collapses almost overnight. Fragmentation traps them in shrinking green prisons. Each forest section becomes a lonely island in a sea of human development, and pandas rarely cross roads or open land, fearing the unfamiliar. So, even if pandas survive in the wild, they're increasingly marooned, unable to reach each other. That isolation leads to a dangerously shallow gene pool. But it's not just the shrinking space, it's the vanishing of time. Pandas reach sexual maturity between 4 and 8 years old, and the females are fertile only 2 to 3 days a year. That's right, just a 72-hour window for reproduction. In the wild, finding a mate within that time frame is already hard. But when populations are fragmented and pandas are isolated, it becomes nearly impossible. Mating doesn't always result in pregnancy either. Even in captivity, it takes countless attempts to succeed. T, his biological bottleneck, means that even under ideal conditions, the population can't grow rapidly. Every failed mating season is a missed chance to recover. And in the wild, time is not a luxury pandas have. Each unproductive year inches them closer to extinction. Imagine fighting for survival and your own biology working against you. Then comes bamboo, their lifeline. Although it's abundant in panda territory, bamboo is sensitive to environmental changes. Tire grows, flower, seed, and die simultaneously every few decades. A natural cycle. But when the plants die off, pandas must migrate to areas with fresh bamboo. Forests fragmented, that's now almost impossible. Pandas can starve not because there's no bamboo in China, but because they physically can't reach it. In 1983, in Sichuan province, over 130 pandas died after a bamboo flowering event wiped out their main food source. That tragedy could happen again, especially as climate change alters flowering cycles and shifts growth zones upward into uninhabitable elevations. Climate change isn't just warming the planets, it's reshuffling the panda's pantry. If that pantry becomes unreachable, starvation is inevitable. But let's add humans to the equation. Not hunters or poachers, but tourists, farmers, and loggers. Roads carve up panda forests. Farms nibble away at the edges. Even well-meaning infrastructure projects push pandas deeper into corners. Noise, traffic, and human presence disrupt their feeding and mating habits. Pandas, despite their size, are shy creatures. They avoid conflict and flee disturbance. But soon, there may be no place left to flee to. Human expansion doesn't stop. And as rural populations in China grow wealthier, development climbs higher into the mountains. The quiet territories pandas once ruled are slowly turning into noise-filled zones of activity. Every human settlement represents another boundary pandas must avoid. You might wonder, aren't they protected? Isn't China doing something? Yes and no. While China has implemented impressive conservation efforts, including breeding centers and nature reserves, the challenge is enormous. Over 60 nature reserves exist today for pandas, but many of them are still too small or poorly connected. Without wildlife corridors to link them, pandas remain trapped in their fragments. Even when a panda is born in a captive setting, reintroducing it into the wild is a massive challenge. They need to learn survival instincts, fear of predators, and how to navigate real terrain. Many captive-born pandas don't make it in the wild. It's not enough to breed them, we must rebuild a world they can survive in. Then there's the cold, hard truth: money and politics. Conservation is expensive, and land is profitable. For every dollar spent saving a panda, hundreds more can be made by developing that land. It becomes a brutal equation: preserve or profit. Though panda tourism generates millions, it often doesn't reach the rural communities closest to panda habitats. Without economic incentives to protect land, locals may not prioritize conservation. And who can blame them? When survival depends on farmland or firewood, pandas become an afterthought. True protection needs not just rules, but rewards for protecting nature. Let's zoom out. Pandas aren't alone in this struggle. Countless species from orangutans to snow leopards face the same triple threat: habitat loss, low birth rates, and human conflict. But pandas are unique because they've become a symbol. We rally behind them. We put them on logos and t-shirts, yet behind the symbolism lies a creature in real danger. It's easy to assume they're safe because we see them in zoos or online. But wild pandas aren't YouTube stars, they're survivors. And their numbers tell a story of decline, not safety. Consider this: pandas don't roar, growl, or fight. Their survival strategy is patience and isolation. But in today's fast-changing world, those traits may be a disadvantage. As ecosystems transform rapidly, adaptable species thrive. Pandas with specialized diets and reclusive behavior struggle to keep up. Evolution hasn't prepared them for bulldozers and climate shifts. We don't intervene meaningfully. We're watching evolution reverse in real time. Pandas aren't just endangered, they're ill-equipped for the world we've created. Even their reproduction in captivity poses problems. Breeding programs rely heavily on artificial insemination, and gene pools are shallow. Genetic diversity is critical for resisting disease and adapting to change. But with so few individuals, inbreeding risks grow. Population may survive, but become so genetically fragile that one disease could wipe them out. We're not just racing against time, we're racing against nature's own rules. The fewer pandas remain, the harder it gets to keep the species viable. Another silent threat: wild predators. While adult pandas have few natural enemies, cubs are vulnerable to snow leopards, jackals, and even birds of prey. In dwindling forests, where cover is sparse, panda cubs are easier targets. Single loss can set back recovery for years. Panda mothers are incredibly protective, but they can't be everywhere. And unlike more social animals, pandas raise their young alone. That isolation, once a strength in dense forests, now becomes a liability. In some areas, pollution has even crept into the equation. Industrial runoff and pesticides can contaminate bamboo. While data is limited, evidence shows some panda habitats have trace toxins in soil and water. Imagine relying on one plant for food and that plant slowly poisons you. As human activity intensifies near reserves, the threat grows. Conservation isn't just about space, but about clean, safe environments. We also can't ignore illegal poaching, though rare today. While hunting pandas is strictly banned and heavily punished, black market demand persists, especially for panda pelts. A single act of poaching can have ripple effects through a small population, spreads fear, disrupts group behavior, and even discourages local conservationists. Vigilance is key, but enforcement over wide areas remains difficult. One trap in the wrong place could mean the death of a mother and the orphaning of her cub. Education plays a critical role in panda survival. Urban populations might care, but do rural populations living near pandas truly understand their importance? Without local awareness, accidental harm is inevitable. Fires, livestock, dogs, or even discarded trash can all harm panda habitats. Community-based conservation is the future. When locals become stewards, not threats, the forest thrives. But that takes time, training, and trust. It's easy to get overwhelmed. 1,800 may sound like a decent number, but in ecological terms, it's a razor-thin margin. One major disease outbreak, one disastrous bamboo die-off, or a series of bad breeding years in the population could plummet. Extinction doesn't always happen in dramatic events. Sometimes it creeps in silently, year by year, till one day there's none left to count. But there's hope. Recent decades have seen the panda upgraded from endangered to vulnerable by the IUCN. That means progress is happening. Reforestation, captive breeding, and better laws are slowly making a difference. But vulnerable is not safe. It's a warning, not a celebration. The gains can vanish if we become complacent. Conservation must accelerate, not relax. Technology could be a game changer. GPS tracking collars, AI-based habitat modeling, and drone surveillance help monitor panda movements. These tools allow conservationists to predict food shortages, prevent poaching, and understand migration better than ever. Data can guide smarter decisions, but only if there's the will to act on it. High-tech tools are useless without real boots on the ground. Global support matters too. Pandas may be native to China, but they're a global treasure. Donations, awareness campaigns, and international partnerships are vital. Countries that host pandas in zoos pay millions for the privilege, and those funds often support wild conservation. But beyond money, spreading awareness of their true situation is key. Cute videos are fun, but the real panda story is one of struggle. What happens if we lose them? The ripple effects are massive. Pandas are umbrella species protecting them also. Safeguards countless other plants and animals in their ecosystem. If they vanish, whole ecosystems suffer. Their extinction wouldn't be a single loss. It would mark the collapse of entire forest systems. Every panda saved is more than an animalit's a stand for nature. So now you know. Only 1,800 giant pandas remain in the wild, not by accident, but through a series of human-driven events. They face isolation, infertility, starvation, and slow destruction of their world. Yet hope still breathes through the bamboo. With urgency, science, and heart, we can rewrite their future. But we must act, not tomorrow, not next year. Now.